Well, hello and welcome to another Music Motivating Monday. We love Mondays here because we know we're going to get a shot of musical motivation. I'm Christopher Maloney with Practice Warriors. Check us out at practicewarriors.com where we teach you how to practice like the pros. Hey, why aren't you going to practice? Oh, don't tell me you're going to and then you don't. Because the reason you aren't practicing might be unconscious. Sigmund Freud, he's the father of psychoanalysis. He came up with something called the pleasure and pain principle. And boy, we do a deep dive in this in the Practice Warriors Masterclass. But let me give you a little bite-sized nugget. Basically, most people will do anything to either avoid pain or gain pleasure. So if you don't know these energies are working for or against you, they're usually against you, you might be sabotaging your own drive to practice. So when I say why won't you practice? We got to figure out what pleasure you can get from not practicing and what pain you can get from practicing. And you might think, what do you mean pleasure from not practicing? Oh, it's not so obvious. And I actually wrote down a list because there's a lot of lists here. So I'm going to cheat today. If you don't practice, how will that be pleasurable? You could have the pleasure of having more time available for other things. You could have the pleasure of not having to fail at something since you didn't start to begin with. You could have the possible delusion that you don't even need to practice. You can have the pleasure of not having to put forth so much effort or not having yet another task to deal with in your busy day or not having to feel bad about where your skills are. You can get pleasure from any of that. What about the pain associated with practicing? You're like, dude, I know practicing is good for me. Not if you think this. If you think when you practice, you'll have the pain of not sounding good at first. That might make you feel bad about yourself, potentially giving up something more fun to do instead of practicing. You'll have the pain of being tired and mentally worn out from practicing. You'll have the pain of doubt that maybe this practicing stuff doesn't even help. You'll have the pain of being responsible to stick with something, or you might even have the pain of feeling bad and upset with yourself when you don't follow through. So what I just gave you a few examples. What you got to do is you got to think, how have you connected pleasure with not practicing and pain with practicing? If you sit down and think about that, you'll discover why you're not practicing. And next Monday, what we're going to do is we're going to turn that all around. And we're going to show you how to connect pleasure with practicing, and pain with not practicing. Stay tuned next Monday.